Your best collection year isn't just going to magically happen. You have to get very intentional about creating it, and it starts with these 5 steps. They're the very same 5 steps that Fortune 500 companies use to plan out their annual roadmap. And the difference between them and you is that they actually plan this out for 5 to 7 years. Now, you don't have to go that far, but you do have to take these 5 steps to create your annual roadmap, and this is going to change your life forever. So let's dive in. Step 1 starts with what we call the annual planning meeting, and we do this with the entire team. So depending if you have a staff of 1 or of 20, you're going to come together to review the success of the previous year. How much were you able to grow? And with the team, we want to put up a whiteboard and draw a line down the middle of it. And on the left-hand side, I want you and your team to do a brainstorming session, review the year, and identify exactly what allowed you guys to grow this year. What were the things that you did right that delivered the growth that you were hoping for? By identifying those and pulling them out of the team, you're going to write them and list them on that whiteboard, and then recommit the team to make sure that those processes, the very things that gave you the growth this year, are being transferred into what we call your SOPs. This is your operations manual. And SOP stands for your standard operating procedure, known by all, followed by all, because we don't want to lose that intellectual knowledge that your organization, your practice has now created. And so the team member that actually was responsible for that very process that created that growth will now write an SOP document. That goes into your operations manual, and now you know that this is the thing that gave growth, and we are going to follow that process in the future. And the next piece of step 1 is recommitting the team to continue to do more of those incredible things that gave you the growth. And that's the amazing thing about building a data-driven team, is they see the growth in the data and they connect it into the process that we put into place to give the growth. Better process drives better outcome, and that shows up in the data, and that is the magic of this first step. Now, before I go into step 2, I am committed to helping the next 10 doctors with their annual team meetings with our checklist. If you want that checklist, just comment below yes, and I want you to DM me on Facebook and let me know that you want this, and our team will make sure that you get that checklist, but it's only available for the next 10 docs, so be one of the first to comment below and DM me directly so that you can get this checklist. Now, step number 2 is not something you actually do with the team. It's something that I want you to do in preparation of your annual team meeting, and this is picking next year's new revenue target. This is a number, the collection number that you anticipate the practice to collect, that you will intentionally build the roadmap to creating. Now, there's a lot of talk out there. If you've been hearing some of the influencers out there, especially like Grant Cardone, that's all about 10x your goals, 10x your goals, 10x your goals. Well, if your goal is to collect 500,000, does that mean you should be setting a goal to collect 5 million? And if you fall a little bit short, man, at least you hit 3 million. I don't want you to think that way. I want you to think instead of what would it take to actually collect this new revenue goal, because it does come at a price. And I want you to understand that price, that cost that you and your team are going to have to pay to actually hit that collection goal. Now, that cost is easily broken down into the very first step, which is you have to become a completely different leader, a completely different doctor, to go from 500,000 to 1 million, and 1 million to 2 million. It's a different leadership. It's a different being. When I started my practice, and I remember hitting my first $500,000 year, I was ecstatic. And then the next year we transformed that. We doubled that and did hit 7 figures. And I look back at who I was that very first year and who I was that second year, and it came down to how much I was willing to invest in myself. You've got to ask that question. How much are you willing to invest in yourself to become that new person that can lead a team, build a team, and lead them to greatness with this new revenue goal? So that's the first cost that's going to take. And then the second thing is, what process are we going to put into the practice that's different than the process that we've been using to get to this year's revenue goals. That process is important because it is what drives outcome, and the processes have to be measured by data. That's why this is the data-driven practice, and we are building data-driven teams. When you connect process to the data it produces and you're watching that on a beautiful dashboard and you connect the team to that data in that dashboard, all of a sudden you're seeing in real time our efforts and their outcomes. Is it moving the needle? Are we moving things forward towards that new revenue goal? Because if we're not, then it's just a reactive management style. It's accepting whatever we get, and that is no way that a data-driven doc leads their team. The next price you're going to have to pay is how much time are you willing to spend training your team, because we know, just like an Olympic athlete, when we train, we improve, and we have to train. But it's not just training. In fact, Olympic athletes connect one more piece, and that is training and measuring. If we don't measure, we don't see, are we improving with the training? And that's key with you and your team. They need to be engaged in the data so they can see the outcomes of their training. That price that you're paying has an amazing cognitive effect on the team for excitement and gamification, because we love to play games. So that game is, can we improve? Can we move our metrics in a positive direction? And that's why in this framework we talk about the prime mover. In fact, if you want to watch my video on the prime mover, we've linked it here so that you can go watch that. That is key to getting the team moving forward towards this revenue goal without focusing on the revenue goal. We don't want them thinking it's all about the money, because it's not. It's all about the patient transformation, but it's all about how expert can we become in each role that we're playing in the practice and the process that we're doing every day to drive these outcomes. That is key in helping this team be led to greatness. What price are you willing to pay to invest in yourself? What price are you willing to pay to invest in them? That is the transformational step number 2. You know, one of my favorite things is to help doctors explode the success of their practice, because not only do they make more income, they actually impact more patients' lives. And so one of my passions is to help doctors find that prime mover, that one thing that if they focused on, it would change everything in their practice. What is your one thing? What is the one thing that you're struggling with? Comment below, let us know, because we have resources that we are dying to share with you, that by solving this pain point, man, how much better could your life be with that pain gone? Step number 3 is a powerful data-driven doc ninja step, and it is understanding that in a year, we're typically focused on the next month, but I want you to change that. Put that bad habit away and get focused and break the year down into its 4 quarters. Typically, I see doctors kind of overestimate what they can do in a month, but underestimate the power of a quarter. And so we're going to look at your year, break it down into 4 sections, and by looking and analyzing your data, the KPIs, the key performance indicators, and if you need a little training on what those are for your practice, the ones you should be tracking, we will link that video below as well. But a KPI, that key performance indicator, what are the 4 that if you changed, man, we would definitely hit our revenue goal for this year? And that becomes the focus of the first quarter, the first KPI that we're going to focus on and sprint with the team. The second quarter, what's the KPI that we're now going to go focus on by keeping the first one improving and now focusing on the second, and then the third, and then the fourth, and by the end of that 4th KPI improvement, with all of the multiplication effect that's going to come from improving these KPIs, you're going to be blown away at what you're able to accomplish with your team by the end of this year. 4 solid quarters. Now, once you have that KPI, we're going to look at the organizational chart. The organizational chart is key for a team to understand what are the systems of the practice and who are the drivers of each one of those systems. A system produces a product that we are measuring by the KPI of that system. And when we put those pieces together, it's easy to look at the KPI and look upstream at the process that needs to be improved to fix the system. For example, if your KPI that needs to be improved is, let's say, new patient kept appointment percentage, well, we look upstream at the processes that are scheduling new patients and committing them to their appointments, and there's steps that you can improve. In fact, we see it in the data of our data-driven community that when they improve the process to new patient show rates, we see a direct impact. The outcome of the new patient show rate skyrocketing, cause and effect. That's what we're focused on. The process that we're going to fix for that quarter is what we call that prime mover. This is the focus of the team. It's unreal when I see leaders of organizations, practice owners leading their team, that if the team doesn't believe what goals you're setting, if they don't believe we can actually accomplish them, this is almost like this underlying energy of sabotage. You got to pay attention to your team members when you talk about goals, when you intentionally set goals with them. Do you feel their energy behind it? Are they bought in that if they do improve the process, we can accomplish that goal, both in quality and volume? That is massive when I learn to lead team members and kind of connect with them, bring them to show them the roadmap of what's possible. And when we had complete buy-in in a team, they were all committed to improving these processes. That's when the team came together and we blew through our glass ceilings that we had been stuck at for quarters and months. But not you. We're giving you the framework that I wish I would have had decades ago when I started my practice. And this is part of the transformational process that, again, these Fortune 500 companies are crushing their revenue goals. This is why people want to invest in them. And you've got to look at it the same way. Your practice is the vehicle that's taking you to the life of your dreams. Again, are you willing to do the work that it's going to take to crush your revenue goals? All right, guys, before I go on to step number 4, if you're loving this kind of content, make sure you hit the subscription bell, turn on notifications, don't miss a single great episode of the Data-Driven Practice. This is where you're going to find the content that is leading our industry's most profitable practice. Don't get left behind, smash that like button, and turn on notifications. Okay, step number 4 is all about that commitment of the team, because if they just believe that it's possible, that's not enough. Like, they have to believe, they have to know and be committed to the process of what we can do. And this comes down to taking now that prime mover and breaking it down into monthly and 2-week sprints. This is why in the data-driven practice, the heartbeat of production is the weekly team meeting. This is where the team members actually come together. We put the dashboard up on a TV. We have the KPIs and accelerators on that screen, and each team member comes responsible to report the quantity and quality of the product of their system that they're assigned to in building in your practice. The team members are coming strategically thinking. They've already reviewed their dashboard. They've already looked at their KPI accelerator and upstream metrics. They already understand how the process is connected to the data, and so they're coming to this team meeting ready to report. Is my performance in a losing status? Is it underperforming? Is it winning? Is it now in the blue? And why is it in each one of those? And what am I going to do about it? Well, the cool thing about breaking this prime mover down into monthly and 2-week sprints is that we're going to have a team member leading that sprint. That sprint is focusing on improving. This could be looking at intentionally making sure that a patient doesn't leave the practice without their next appointment. This is called our recare rate. There's so much connection between understanding the data, understanding the process that drives the data, and understanding the team members' skill, desire, commitment to the process. And when you're willing to invest in them and spend the time training, role-playing, helping them, supporting them, lifting them, the entire organization is lifted. And who wins? Well, it's the patients with incredible outcomes. And of course, we start moving towards our revenue targets. That is step number 4, breaking down the prime mover into its monthly and 2-week sprints with a team member committed to that process and making sure that it's implemented and documented for future success. Step number 5 is such an important one, and don't leave this one out. This is rewarding your team, creating incentive. It's proper incentivization. Think about this for a second. The reason why you're here in this practice, the reason why you're working so hard moving the prime movers, tracking the KPIs, is because there's a direct connection between success, income, and feeling like we're winning. We want the team members to feel like we're winning. It's fun to be on a winning team. It kind of sucks to be on a losing team over and over and over. So we're going to stop that. We're going to turn the tides and move momentum in your favor by incentivizing the team with proper monthly goals connected to their KPI. We even do a profit sharing model in our advanced bonus systems. And then we get into the quarterly goal. We get into the quarterly prime mover. If we hit that prime mover for the quarter, what are we going to do to celebrate as a team? This isn't just a bonus that they see in their paycheck or they get handed. This is an experience. I just had a team member share with me that they hit their prime mover for their fourth quarter, and they were taking the team in a limo out to an amazing dinner and to drive around the city and look at the Christmas lights. I had another team that they hit their prime mover, and it was such a big impact that they actually took the team to Jamaica. Now, that's not a cheap trip, but this is the kind of revenues that can be generated with proper frameworks. And that's what the data-driven practice is giving you, is the framework. So if this is new for you, if your revenues are sub 7 figures, then those quarterly prime movers, when you hit them, they don't have to be as extravagant as taking the team on a dream vacation, but it certainly should be something where you're having a team barbecue or a picnic or a day in the park or a day at the spa or something that we can stop, celebrate our success, and truly be excited about the momentum that this framework has created. That's what a data-driven doc is all about. That's what a data-driven team does, is making sure that we celebrate. So these are the 5 steps that the Fortune 500 companies are using to crush their revenue goals. The question is are you ready to implement them? Are you ready to take the team and become the leader that you know you're capable of being? Now, to become that kind of leader, it's really helpful to have a support network. We're not on a lone island. I don't want you to feel like you're by yourself in your practice, because you're not. We have a community called the Data-Driven Practice. It's a free Facebook group that you can come be a part of. And in this community, we're talking about these type of things on a regular basis to support you in implementation, where you can actually ask questions and get help from me and the community. I will personally answer those questions, and our group will support you and say, hey, I've been there. This is what I did. That type of support community is priceless. So I invite you, come be a part of the Data-Driven Practice Facebook group. It's life-changing. And our doctors that were just in your shoes months ago are now seeing the benefits. So don't get left behind. I will see you inside the Facebook group.